It's a Monday episode of Locked On Grizzlies. It's Damichael Cole's birthday. I promise I am not going to sing to him. All he gets for his birthday is an election eve edition of the podcast. We're not going to talk about politics, goodness knows. We're going to talk about how the Memphis Grizzlies are doing some good things, having some good showings, making some big plays, and picking up wins against teams that seem more broken than them. We're going to talk about that and then preview Grizzlies Nets again coming up on this edition of the podcast. Let's go lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy birthday, Damichael.
No.
Happy birthday to you.
Appreciate
Beautiful,
that,
right?
Appreciate that. I love it.
I didn't
love
have
it.
to listen to the whole.
I don't even got to go pull up any of the Apple Music versions of Happy Birthday. Joe Mullinax is better than all those versions. Yeah.
And yes, I do have a better singing voice than you thought I would. You guys are exactly right. Wherever you're checking out the podcast, this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Yes, you are correct. I can sing, in fact, and it's a good thing that I can, of course. Welcome to the Monday edition of the show, the Damichael Cole birthday edition of Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode is brought to you by the good folks over at FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Friendly reminder that we have a newsletter now. Your favorite podcast has a newsletter, the Locked On Grizzlies Daily Newsletter. Your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts as proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, whether it's audio, whether it's visual, hopefully it's both. Make Damichael and I each and every day part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption. I'm sorry that we weren't here with you on Friday. I apologize, dear listener, dear viewer. Damichael was very busy covering the team. Memphis had a game, of course, on Thursday night, and Damichael's day job is working up the Commercial Appeal, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for that publication. He had to do some extensive work there that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit here momentarily. And I, in my day job, was busy finishing up the regular season for my coaching that I do, football coaching. So it was a busy day. Sorry we missed you on Friday, but we'll give you all week this week a full chalk slate of 5 episodes of Locked On Grizzlies. And then at some point in the month, I'll make it up to you, dear listener, dear viewer. I will have an exclusive weekend edition of Locked On Grizzlies. That'll come up at some point here in November. Birthday boy, happy 19th birthday to you. Very excited that you get to,
19,
yeah, 19 years
old. I like that number, but
yeah,
a little bit older than that. So
I just assumed that you're
trying to make me feel old now. That's
well, you make me feel old every day.
You're trying to
just by existing. You don't do it on purpose. But Damichael, happy birthday to you, of course, and make sure on X and in the comments wish our wonderful Damichael Cole a happy birthday. The Grizzlies have been giving you some better basketball to cover as an early birthday present. It was fun to see them put it on them the last couple of games, and especially that Philly game, right? Things a little bit unique there in Philadelphia. Lots of headlines coming out of that contest that didn't necessarily involve the Memphis Grizzlies. But what are some of your biggest takeaways? Obviously, we've missed the last couple of games here, Philly being the most recent. Ja Morant's assist numbers, and I know you've pointed this out on X and in some of your coverage over the Commercial Appeal. He stands primed. He may not be able to get up to number 1 in the league and stay there because they're going to need Ja.
Trae Young's a man.
Right, Trae Young is, absolutely. But Ja being top 5 in assists seems very possible at this point, given the way that the Grizzlies are executing offense. It seems to fit right into what Ja Morant really wants to do as a player because he can score the ball, but his first love is creating offense for others.
Yeah, it's funny because if you remember the episode I think I did after the Utah Jazz game, season opener, and maybe it was after the Houston game. One of us did. I think you may have did the Utah game, and I did after the Houston game. But somewhere around there, I mentioned on the show that I was in the locker room and I was talking to Ja, and I was like, "You could average 10 assists. Like And his response was, he was like, yeah, I could have been doing this, but with the way the offense is now and things like that, it makes it easier for him to have kind of higher assist totals with the pace. Guys cutting. We saw in that game against Utah, him and Santi. Santi was just cutting to the basket a lot in that game. But honestly, the high assist numbers as of late have been a little bit different than the beginning of the season. I think what we're seeing now is with no Desmond Bane in particular, that's the really big score that they're missing. That's 20 points a game right there that you're missing. Without Desmond Bane in the lineup, you're getting the most aggressive version of Ja Morant. It's not I'm just going to let everybody la-di-da-di-da and I'll get in where I fit in. It's my team needs me to get downhill, create for myself and create for them, because you're missing a 20.5 assist type of guy in Desmond Bane. So that's at least 30, 35 points that you're missing being accounted for. And Ja Morant has done his part in taking the lead and taking his game to another level. These assist numbers are, in a way, some of it is sustainable for him because of the offense, because of the pace. I think one thing that will change is he won't have the ball in his hands as much, when, Desmond Bane is back on the floor. But they've also, with him and Scottie Pippen Jr., got a nice little thing working there. And Joe, speaking of Scottie Pippen Jr., that's my guy, right?
That's your boy. Now that Derrick Rose is no longer on the roster, he is your boy.
You just had to throw that in there. You just had to throw that in there. How about him being top 5 in assists right now?
It's not an accident, right? I think we have to give some credit. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I have been critical of this offense, at least in terms of turnovers, to have two guys that are creating at the rate that Pippen and Morant are. That clearly is clicking.
Yeah. And the thing about Scottie is we talked a lot about the turnovers, right, and things there, but he's starting to clean some of those things up. And quite frankly, I think it's just a product of him being on the floor with more talented players. So he's on the floor with better talent, and it all bodes well for him. I think defensively we know what he can do, but it's everything else that he's done in between time. Quite frankly, I think the Grizzlies now with Ja Morant and Scottie Pippen Jr., they have a nice little dynamic there going at the point guard position.
Between the two of them, they had 25 assists against Philly on Saturday night, and Memphis had 35 assists total. So do the math on that. More than 2/3 of the assists that the Grizzlies were slinging came from their 2 point guards, their 2 traditional guards in that way. That's pretty impressive. Another impressive stat coming out of the game against the wonderfully broken Philadelphia 76ers. Shout out to Joel Embiid standing up for his family in the newspaper. I ain't mad at him for that at all. You would never write a post like that. Quick side note, quick tangent. You wouldn't do something like that.
Yeah, I know the reporter though. That he was at the Philadelphia Inquirer when I was
because you had that connection with the Philly Inquirer. Obviously, we're not going to badmouth people, but that's a tough situation all around, and we can probably leave it at that. This is from Grizzlies PR. Saturday night marked the 3rd time in franchise history the 4 Grizzlies, Morant, Aldama, Pippen Jr., and Zach Edey, who we'll talk more about here in a moment, doubled in the same game. The last time that happened was January 21st, 2008. Mike Conley, Pau Gasol, Mike Miller, and Rudy Gay. And then before that, it was Sharif Abdur-Rahim, Mike Bibby, Bryant Reeves.
That's Vancouver.
That's back in the day, right? So I'm curious, partner, how do you feel about Santi Alama at this point? We already talked about Morant and Pippen Jr., obviously. Edey we'll talk more about here in a moment. Just some quick thoughts on the start to the season for Santi. I don't think it's going overlooked in Memphis, but I do think, the national media maybe isn't paying attention. Spain, Santi's here. Right? Like the guy that played for Team Spain is in the building for the Memphis Grizzlies, and he's making a huge difference for that team right now.
Yeah, I want to start it with this, and we'll have plenty of time to talk in detail with this as the season goes on. But I remember before the season, I was saying that at some point it's going to be a Gigi or Santi thing. Remember that? And I wasn't sure that confident year 2, right off the beginning of the season, Gigi was going to overtake Santi. And here's where Santi is standing out right now. He's a winning basketball player. It's that simple. That was not always the case with Santi Alama. How is he a winning basketball player? What is to me, a winning basketball player. A winning basketball player is someone who positively impacts the game in several different ways. So when they don't got A, B, or C, they can go to their D option and still be a positive, impactful player. The shooting in that last game, he was 0-5 on three-pointers, Joe. Go back to the past. When Santi would be 0-5 on three-pointers, there was no point of playing him.
He's giving you absolutely nothing else.
But now you got 10 points, 13 rebounds. In 6 of the 7 games, he's had at least 5 boards. Then he's not going to shoot 0-5 on three-pointers every game. So maybe in the game where he has 2 or 3 rebounds, now you have the ability to depend on his ability as a three-point shooter. There's also the playmaking element there that he has. Putting him at the 3 has really unlocked some things for them, in stretches. I don't think that should be a long-term thing at all, but it works, in increments, I guess is the way to put it. But he is becoming a winning basketball player. I think that's a simple way to put it. He has more elements to his game than he previously had over the last few years. And I think playing, like you said, with the national team is taking his confidence to new heights as well.
He also wants to get paid, right? He's got free agency coming up.
That contract year, man.
Funny how millions of dollars can be a motivator, right? Funny how that works. So shout out to Santi. Shout out to the Grizzlies, right? We've talked pretty, not negatively, critically of them several times throughout the last few weeks as the season has gotten underway. They've picked themselves off, dusted themselves off a little bit. I'm impressed with how they've competed. They have a winning record, right? Coming out of this stretch of games to be 4-3. It could be worse. The Philadelphia 76ers, like I said, looking very broken at the moment. Memphis is not broken in that particular way. So it's good to see them pick up that win and head into a big game in Brooklyn tonight against the Nets with a little bit of momentum. We'll talk about that later on in the show. We'll also talk about next the 2 rookies that have really been putting their best foot forward of late, including Zach Edey, another guy that we've been not necessarily critical of, but someone who had a slow start and is heating up at the right time. We'll talk about that coming up next. This episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by BetterHelp. Again, BetterHelp brings to you this show. This is a sponsorship from BetterHelp. This month is all about gratitude, right? I want to say thank you as my football season ends and my day job to my wife, who does an amazing job with our children, Caroline, Abby, and Mitchell. She takes care of them. She's essentially a single parent for a third of the year as I go and pursue my coaching. She is phenomenal in that way, and I'm just so thankful for her helping me do the stuff that I love to do, my passion. Without her, it wouldn't be possible. I really think that we don't shout out those types of people in our lives enough, and we also don't shout ourselves out enough. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we're trying to make our best of everything that's going on in the world. That's not easy with all the craziness going on around us. Make sure you're thanking yourself. Make sure you're thanking the people that you care about in your life. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. The rookies, Damichael, the rookies, they're cooking. They're doing some good things. I mean, how about our boy Jaylen Wells getting the start and looking
I want to talk about some about him too.
2 for 4 from beyond the arc. He's rebounding, a couple of assists. He has levels to his game that we didn't necessarily think he had at this stage. And then Zach Edey with the double-double, 10 points, 10 rebounds. This is the kind of game that we expected to see from Edey. They don't need him to be a dominant scorer. They need him around double digits, and they need him to be efficient, 10 points on 7 shots. They need him to stay out of foul trouble, 22 minutes played, only 3 fouls. He did a lot of impressive things. He was the lowest scoring of the 2 starters. Santi, you mentioned earlier, with 10 points. Zach Edey also had 10. But he was not a liability in any way, shape, or form. He did some good things. The 2 rookies getting starts against the Philadelphia 76ers and looking like they belong. That's a major development.
Yeah, let's talk about Jaylen Wells a little bit. We'll talk about Edey, and we talk about Edey a lot. But with Jaylen Wells, so this was a guy who we didn't even think would crack the rotation, at the beginning of the season. And quite frankly, with the depth of this team, it just didn't make sense for a rookie second-round pick to be in the rotation. But you were here, Joe. I wasn't here this guy's first year in the league, but, covering the NBA, watching the NBA, you watched him and whatnot. But I've been hearing people say there's some rookie year Desmond Bain vibes with Jaylen Wells now, and let me say this before you add your input and your opinion on that. I think when people say that, they're not saying that he's going to be Desmond Bain. The way Bain went from 9 to 18 points a game in year 2 and pretty much, borderline all-star type talent after that. He was a 4-year college player. Then Jaylen Wells played D2 basketball 2 years ago. Like it's different.
Is not going to have that level of opportunity because of the guys that are already established. Bain came into a more favorable situation for that kind of development.
Yeah, they got Grayson Allen out of here, and this is your star spot. But with all that being said, the similarities that I see just from covering these guys is the poise. That's always been a Desmond Bain trait. The confidence. Desmond Bain, rookie year, Desmond Bain did not come in afraid to shoot the basketball. Shot over 40% from 3-point range as a rookie, and got the shots up. Jaylen Wells, I mean, to see a rookie pull up in transition and take 3-pointers, where you got John Morant flanking down one side, and you got the talent that the Grizzlies have on the floor. He's like, no, I'm the one that's gonna pull up in transition and shoot the 3, and then he holds the pose, Joe. So like, it's not like, oh, should I have shot that? Like normal rookie stuff. And these things sound small to people, but you can attest to this, Joe. Like when you're coaching a team, when you get those rookies and things like that, the first thing that you want them to do is play free, because most rookies are going to be timid. They're going to be thinking a lot. He's going to say, oh, should I take this shot? I don't want to get yanked too early. You don't see that with Jaylen Wells. And quite frankly, you saw that some with Zaire Williams when he first got here. You saw it with Jake LaRavia some after he had that hot stretch to start the season. You saw it with David Roddy some. I'm just going through recent first-round picks. But,
I would say you're seeing it in a different way with Zach Edey literally right now.
Yeah. And he's, again, someone who's really trying to figure out his role. But with Jaylen Wells, it's like he already knows his role. So I don't know the long-term thing. Like Desmond Bain, that leap he took, I don't think a lot of people just saw that happening. But the poise that this guy is playing with, how about defensively too? Guarding Tyrese Maxey, guarding Damian Lillard. I've been really impressed with Jaylen Wells over the last couple games.
I love that he's not afraid. I see that Bain comp very clearly. I think they have different games in several other ways, but the confidence is huge, and that really is going to be beneficial for him as Memphis depends on him moving forward. You've talked about it. Others have written about it like you have as well. The Grizzlies have started formulating their core around the big three as money gets tight. Right, because as you assume that they re-signed Jaren to a deal that's much bigger than his current one, Jaylen Wells is going to be a part of that core. So as he proceeds to give the Grizzlies what they need in terms of skill set, you picked up on that.
Yeah,
I got to give that shout out. But as he gives Memphis what they need in that way at such a young NBA age in terms of his rookie season, that is something to be optimistic about. Contributions were expected from Zach Edey. Right. Yep. And I think that's part of the issue for him is the burden of expectation. Wells has no expectations, right? Mm-hmm. This year was all about him just, taking advantage of the time that he's gotten. And he most certainly has done that so far. I'm really, really impressed, not just with him and the way that he's been able to make opportunities work for himself. Because again, he took 11 shots, but only 4 of them were threes. So that means he's trying to get to the basket. He's trying to show the levels to his game. Zach Edey, better positioning under the rim, trying to post up, doing some things that, sometimes you get lip service from players. You get lip service. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm watching film. I'm in the gym. I'm trying so hard to get better. You can tangibly see it with Edey. Each and every time that he is out there, he is becoming more and more comfortable. And that's a credit to him. That's a credit to his teammates, right? John Morant has talked about sitting down and watching film with him. I'm sure Ja's not the only one. His coaches. They are invested in making sure this guy works, because if they want to compete in the spring, they need to get the kinks out in the fall and the winter.
Yeah, and Zach Edey is invested, which is the most important part. He's going up to guys asking questions. I mentioned how after that game against the Rockets, he just made a beeline straight over there to Steven Adams. Like he had his mind made up that I am going to talk to Steven Adams and pick up whatever he gives me from that conversation. But yeah, mentioning just what you just touched on, it's probably one of the things that stood out to me that Zach Edey said to this point, because he doesn't talk a lot. He's very short answers, very, I just get the feeling that he just doesn't like doing media, and it makes sense. 2-time National Player of the Year, like you said, cameras all in his face, the last few years. But with all that being said, he was talking about a week or so ago to me, and it just kind of happened during the conversation, during the interview. And he's saying that, when I go back and look at myself, and this was like after one of his quote unquote bad games. That's how I remember it so well. He said, when I go back and watch myself from a week ago, and then the week before that, and then the week before that, like, I'm noticing really big differences. And that stood out to me because if you look at his numbers, you say, what is he talking about? He just had 7 points, didn't play in the fourth quarter. What is type of? But it's the nuanced things that we've talked about a lot, why the big man is typically, usually, often one of the slower developing positions for rookies. It's little things where, hey, look, I don't have the foot speed of these athletic guards and wings, so I got to learn how to use angles to cut off guards. I got to learn how to use this spacing to my advantage and things like that. He's figuring all those things out, but you're starting to see the progress of that. But, yeah, big game for him, and that was against Andre Drummond, arguably probably the best rebounder of the 21st century, up there with him and Dwight Howard, I think, in that category. But, I mean, Andre Drummond's been one of the best rebounders that we've seen, and Zach Edey held his own, got a double-double against him.
One of the best rebounders of the 21st century. There's a hot take in there somewhere. I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong, but you don't really think of Andre Drummond in that way. I like where you're coming from, though. You're bringing the heat on your birthday. I like that. A lot of confidence there. I look forward to hearing how you do so as we preview Grizzlies Nets. We literally just did this a few days ago, so it'll be a little bit different look to that preview. We'll talk about the Brooklyn game coming up and Memphis being in Brooklyn this time around for the contest. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. This episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL is in full swing, and you need to get ready to tackle the action with FanDuel. That's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets in the NFL all in one place. Say you get a hunch in the middle of the game. Again, the Commanders, the 7-2 Washington Commanders. Maybe you have a hunch that they're going to smoke the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you want to look up some stats to give you further confidence to place that bet. You can check those numbers out, view live play-by-play, and so much more on that same exact page where you place those bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner, of the good folks over at the NFL. Check out FanDuel.com today. All right, Damichael, we'll get you out of here on this. You've got a birthday to celebrate. Again, make sure everybody hits up Damichael on X, at Damichael C. Comments, all that stuff. Happy birthday to Damichael. Have fun.
Much appreciated.
Before you have to work tonight, have a little bit of fun.
I'm not working that game.
Nets.
I'm not working that game.
Oh, never mind then. Never mind then. We're breaking the fourth wall a little bit here. I guess that I'm going solo on Tuesday. Good for you, birthday boy. That's fine. No worries. So anyway, we'll get Damichael out of here with a day off for his birthday coming up. How do you see this game playing out? Obviously, the teams literally played roughly a week ago. Didn't end well for Memphis. Cam Thomas went off, had some success.
Mm-hmm. Dennis Schroeder was
even worse than Cam Thomas. Right. So that seems like the starting point, trying to find a way to slow him down in this rematch tonight going on in Brooklyn.
That was the maddest game so far this season for the Grizzlies. That was the one we went in the locker room. And guys, that was the game Taylor Jenkins pretty much called out the defense, and people, fans were kind of not happy with the way that Taylor managed through that game. This game is recent enough on the schedule where I'm sure it still itches with them a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm paying attention to all those things that went wrong in that last game, and how can you correct them? People have pointed out to me, and I've noticed it as well, Dennis Schroeder is almost like CJ McCollum light against the Grizzlies. Like,
that's a good point.
Right? I mean, do you remember that Lakers Grizzlies playoff series?
I'll do you one better beyond in terms of Grizz killers. CJ McCollum's bad, but Kevin Martin. Old school Kevin
Oh,
Martin.
you went back. Yeah,
used to destroy the Memphis Grizzlies.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Schroeder is an underrated Grizz killer for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was really good in that game. I think he had like 33 points or something like that. But the Grizzlies couldn't stay in front of him. That's going to be a big point because now you're going to have possibly Jaylen Wells starting and guarding him. So he's guarded Tyrese Maxey, he's guarded Damian Lillard. All right, next up, you got Dennis Schroeder, who right now is looking like one of the better point guards in the NBA based on the way he's played. I'm not saying he is, but if you look at the production of what you've seen from Dennis Schroeder up to this point of the season, he's been really good. That's where it starts for me. That's the guy. That's numero uno in terms of shutting down that Nets offense over there. And then, of course, you can't let Zaire Williams walk out with another smile on his face like that. Just as a competitor, like you cannot let that happen again. And then there's another thing. You also getting them on the back-to-back again. They played.
I was just about to say they lost a double-digit defeat at the hands of the Detroit Pistons, if I'm not mistaken.
And here's the thing: you had them on a back-to-back last time. They traveled in an overtime game, and it was against the Denver Nuggets. Kind of a physical team there. So, and you still lost handily. I think it was 119-106. So, I think this one will look a little bit different because, Ja is going to come out. And I think Ja had 15 points, 5 of 16 shooting, something like that in that last game. He's going to play over 30 minutes more than likely. So, that's probably going to happen as well. This game, the way this was scheduled, is perfect for the Grizzlies to kind of right their wrongs and put that last Nets loss behind them.
I am excited to see how the team responds because you're exactly right. This is their first chance to do that, right?
Yep.
Cam Thomas is going to shoot the lights out, or at least try to shoot the lights out.
He's going to try, for better or worse.
And a very underrated backcourt in Thomas and Schroeder. I'm curious to see how the Grizzlies bigs respond to the front court of Brooklyn because there are guys on that Brooklyn team that can really impact how Memphis rebounds. And rebounding is going to be a constant thing that we talk about over and over and over again. The last time these two teams played, Memphis did pretty well in the rebounding category, at least compared to the Nets, 38-34. So they were +4, but they need to make that a priority. It's important to point out that it wasn't a full tilt front court for Brooklyn in that contest. Nick Claxton obviously being such an important piece of what Brooklyn's trying to do. How Memphis is able to respond and continue to prioritize rebounding is going to be a major key for me.
Let me add to that. Zach Edey should get another double-double.
Absolutely.
He should have a double-double in this game. There's no way around. If you go back to that Nets game, the first one, he was cooking in the first quarter, I think it was. Like, he was off to a really good start, and what happened?
Nobody on the Brooklyn Nets is able to defend him.
They had Ben Simmons guarding. Ben Simmons used to guard guards in his best defensive days, like the Devin Bookers and Damian Lillards and those type dudes. But anyways, the point is the Grizzlies went away from him, and some of it was good. The Nets were, they're a quick lineup. Like Cam Thomas, Dennis Schroeder, those guys are quick. So I get some of it, but at the same time, especially Ben Simmons, another guy, he's really quick. For him to be playing the 5 or starting at the 5, whatever the case may be. But they did all this talking all season, Joe. We talked about it a little bit about, we're going to be the ones that enforce our will instead of teams deciding what we do. You got Zach Edey, you got this 7'4" guy. You're going against this small lineup. Nick Claxton will be, in the game in moments. And even when he is in the game, another guy who was dominating that Nets game too was Jaren Jackson Jr. because that lineup is so small. You got Ben Simmons guarding Edey at the 5, but then you got like Dorian Finney-Smith guarding Jaren Jackson Jr. That's a mismatch. He's a wing. So this game's all about the Grizzlies front court to me. Ja's going to get the attention and whatnot. Ja should have 10 assists again. Zach Edey should have a double-double, and Jaren should probably get to the free throw line at least 6 times in this game.
It's going to be a fun game. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm looking forward to covering it for us here at Locked On Grizzlies because there's just breaking news here on Locked On Grizzlies. The birthday boy is going to be taking the night off. Well-deserved. Well-deserved, both from his commercial appeal duties and from Locked On Grizzlies. So I will have you guys on Tuesday. We will talk about Grizzlies Nets, obviously look ahead a little bit to the week that will be for Memphis. Lots of fun things to discuss. Looking forward to our Tuesday edition of the show, and looking forward to welcoming Damichael back later on in the week. Hopefully, not not in too much trouble with the doing damage down in Memphis, Tennessee. I know how Beale Street can be. So having fun, of course. And
we're gonna do some damage, but yeah, we'll keep it controlled, I guess.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I want you to have fun. Well deserved. Happy birthday, partner. Excited for you, and I'm excited for our listeners and viewers as we get back into the swing of things here on Locked On Grizzlies after closing out with a 3-day weekend last week. Friendly reminder that we have a newsletter now, introducing the Locked On Grizzlies daily newsletter, a one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now if you haven't already done so at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Make sure that you are liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing wherever you get podcasts. We're proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon. It is all good wherever you get podcasts. Make Damichael and I part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies consumption each and every day. Be an everydayer if you are not already one. One last time, happy birthday to Damichael Cole. One last time, good luck to the Grizzlies tonight in Brooklyn against the Nets. I'll be with you to break it all down on our Tuesday edition of the show, our Election Day edition of the show. I feel like I'm going to talk about maybe which Grizzly I would vote for president, right? Goodness gracious knows we will not talk about politics. I please know that's not happening. But, we'll have some Election Day fun as well. For Damichael, I'm Joe. Have a great one. Enjoy your Monday, Grizzlies fans. We'll catch you back here on Tuesday on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. Locked On Grizzlies will be there. See ya.